Welcome back to this explainer. Building on our course overview, today we're jumping right into the foundational stuff, an introduction to cosmetics GMP and the ISO 22716 standard. Now look, if you're operating in the cosmetics industry, you might be tempted to view good manufacturing practice, or GMP, as just this massive mountain of regulatory red tape, right? Just a giant box to check. But today, we're going to completely reframe that mindset. We're going to hook into the reality that this framework isn't just about compliance. It's actually the ultimate commercial passport for your brand's global success. Okay, let's dive right in.
Right out of the gate, we've got to clearly define what we even mean by GMP. So good manufacturing practice in cosmetics means producing consistent, safe products under highly controlled conditions. It is a comprehensive system. We're not just talking about the final product sitting on the shelf. We're talking about controlling the facilities, the people, the materials, the processes, and crucially, the records. Think of it as a living, daily operating system that's designed to guarantee that absolutely every single batch meets its intended quality and safety standards. No exceptions.
And that brings us straight to our core thesis for today. GMP is a commercial passport, just as much as it is a regulatory obligation. Sure, voluntary certification exists, but honestly, without ISO 2276 compliance, serious global market access is virtually impossible. Retailers and distributors are going to demand this evidence from any serious supplier. You literally cannot scale or enter major markets without it. It's that simple.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're covering the basics of cosmetics GMP, the global regulatory landscape, this whole idea of the commercial passport, a quick look inside a factory audit, the 15-clause operating map, and finally, the top mistakes you definitely want to avoid.
All right, Section 1, the basics of cosmetics GMP.
That number right there, 15, is kind of the magic number. ISO 22716 is the international standard that takes this incredibly broad concept of good manufacturing practice and translates it into exactly 15 specific actionable operational clauses. To give you a feel for the scope, these cover pretty much every functional area you can think of: personnel, premises, equipment, materials, production, quality control, documentation, handling complaints, change control, and internal audits. Now remember, today we're just looking at the overarching scope to set our foundation, but getting these clauses established completely takes the guesswork out of quality and safety.
Moving on to Section 2, the global regulatory landscape. This is where we see the domino effect of international harmonization. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. Starting with the EU, under Regulation EC 1223/2009, GMP compliance is completely mandatory, and it explicitly points to ISO 22716 as the harmonized standard. Post-Brexit, the UK maintains that exact same GMP obligation and alignment. Globally, markets like ASEAN, Mercosur, China, and Japan all recognize or align to this standard in practice. But, and this is a big one, pay special attention to the US. With the Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act of 2022, or MOCRA, the FDA now has the authority to set GMP, and their draft regulations are explicitly aligning to ISO 22716 principles. The US is rapidly catching up, which means this standard is truly undeniably global.
Okay, Section 3, the commercial passport.
Let's put you in the hot seat with a little scenario. Imagine you're a startup brand. You've got exactly 6 weeks until a major launch. Exciting, right? Well, your chosen contract manufacturer tells you, hey, don't worry, we're ISO 22716 compliant. But when you ask for the actual certification evidence to hand over to your retailer for onboarding, turns out they don't actually have it yet. So what would you do?
You're faced with a tough choice. On one hand, your current contract manufacturer is cheap, and they're fast. On the other hand, alternative manufacturers who actually have their certification in hand are 25% pricier, and they're slower. Switching means you are for sure going to miss your launch date. So do you risk it and launch with the non-certified manufacturer, or do you delay for the certified partner? Well, the clear guidance here is delay. Seriously, partnering with a non-certified manufacturer is a massive deal breaker for retailers, and it exposes you to severe recall risks. If a retailer finds ISO 22716 gaps later down the line, it's going to cost your brand exponentially more in lost trust, hefty fines, and lost market access than a simple 6-week launch delay ever could.
Which leads us to Section 4, inside a factory audit.
Think about an indie skincare brand using a contract manufacturer down in Italy, and they're trying to get stocked in Boots UK and Sephora Europe. Those retailers require ISO 2217 evidence as a strict, non-negotiable condition of ranging. When the auditor actually walks onto that factory floor,
They aren't looking for vague promises. They are there to verify the exact scope of ISO 2217. They want to see visible, tangible evidence across the board, from signed quality policies to role-specific training records and drill logs. The absolute crucial takeaway for this intro module is that lived compliance means having defensible records ready in minutes, not days, minutes. Now, we'll be diving much deeper into how to actually build these specific elements in our later modules, so hang tight for that.
Section 5, the 15-clause operating map.
This map illustrates the full scope of the standard. As you can see, those 15 clauses we mentioned earlier naturally group into 5 logical steps. We go from people and place to materials, quality control, external feedback, and finally wrapping up with control and audit. Now, while we aren't going to dive into the nitty-gritty specifics of QMS, personnel, or premises today, because again, those are covered in detail in our later modules, it's absolutely vital for your foundation right now to understand that these functional buckets form a single, interconnected quality management system. Missing just one piece completely undermines the entire structure.
And finally, Section 6, top mistakes and takeaways.
Let's kick this off with a really quick knowledge check. Why do major retailers and distributors demand ISO 2276 evidence in the first place? Is it A, just marketing theater? B, evidence of manufacturing discipline and supply chain risk management? C, a sneaky way to charge higher fees? Or D, they don't, it's completely optional? Well, if you've been following along with us, the answer is definitively B. Retailers use this standard strictly for supplier quality assurance and due diligence. They're going to ask first and inspect later. Which brings us to the top mistakes you need to avoid. Mistake number 1, assuming that just because you follow general best practice, you are somehow automatically ISO compliant. Nope. Without documentation, good intentions mean absolutely nothing to an inspector. Mistake 2 is choosing a contract manufacturer solely based on price without even verifying their audit history. Mistake 3, treating ISO 22716 as a one-time certification event rather than a living, breathing operating system. Mistake 4 is under-budgeting for GMP, things like QMS, documentation, and training. They have real costs. And lastly, ignoring the MACRA evolution. Like we talked about, the US is rapidly catching up to the standard, so you definitely can't afford to opt out.
I want to leave you with this final thought as we wrap up this explainer. ISO 22716 is not some fancy certification plaque that you just dust off once a year. It's a daily discipline. It is a living system of accountability. And it truly is your ultimate global passport to market access. So the big question you have to ask yourself right now is this. If a major retailer audited your supply chain tomorrow, are your daily operations genuinely ready to pass the ultimate commercial test?